Well, our next guest and last guest is Jeff Cohen, who waited very patiently. He's a great. We're so happy to have him again. And Jeff is the USA Director for Zehut International. And he's going to talk about the Zehut peace plan with respect to security and the military path back to Gush Katif. So I want to say I think Moshe Feiglin's Zehut biggest fan in Chutz La'aretz. I just am so, his plan just makes so much sense. And it is absolutely, in my opinion, in line with everything that the Rebbe spoke about. So what I asked Jeff to do today was to really focus in on the parts of the that talk about the strategy of going back on the ground into Gaza. So welcome, Jeff.
Thank you very much. Before I start, I actually just want to say thank you to Daniela Weiss. In 1998, I took my first trip to Israel with an organization called Tagar. And we came to Kedumim, and we met with you. You spoke to us, and one of the things that I remember from then, one of the things you told us about Kedumim is that it was established without a fence, right? Most of the communities in Yehuda and Shomron, they all have fences around them. And Kedumim was specifically built without a fence, because a fence, as soon as you put it up, limits your community. And that stayed with me for so long. So Daniela, thank you. You are a powerhouse and an inspiration to the people of Israel, to the Jews.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You made a big difference in my life. But so anyway, I want to start actually with a pasuk from Devarim, which we read this past Shabbat. It's always seems to be that either from the previous Shabbat or the coming Shabbat, there is something that is relevant to whatever we're going to be talking about. And so it's in Perek Aleph of Dvarim, Pasuk Chet, and it's the Pasuk is Re'ei natati lifnechem et haaretz. See, I have set the land before you. Bo urushu et haaretz. Come and possess the land. Asher nishba Adonai lavotechem. Abraham, Yitzchak, with Yaakov, the land that I swore to your forefathers, to Abraham, to Yitzchak, to Yaakov, to give to them and their descendants after them. And there is a Rashi on this pasuk, which is wonderful. Rashi says, Re'ei natati, it says, Beinechem atem roim, eini omer lachem, me'omed u mishmua, right? With the words mean, see the land that I have given before you, right? With your own eyes, you see this, right? I don't tell you this by conjecture or hearsay. You see it for yourself. And then it says, Bo'u Rashu, right? Come and possess it. And he says, there is no one who will contest the matter, and you will not need to wage war, right? Rashi says that if the Jewish people had not sent the Meraglim, if they had simply had faith in Hashem, they would not have needed to go to war to take the land, right? God, they could have simply walked in, and the people would have recognized Hashem's power. And they wouldn't have had to raise one sword. So from that, we can very well see that we made a lot of mistakes along the way, but especially in Gush Katif. Okay, we all know, everyone on this call, I'm sure, knows and understands that it was a huge mistake to leave Gush Katif, and we all also know that at some point we are going to be forced to take it back. We know that the government doesn't want to take it back, but we will be forced to take it back. Just as in 1967, the government didn't want to take back the rest of Yerushalayim or Judea and Samaria, but Hashem forced it upon them. He said, no, you're going to take this. And the residents of Gush Katif And all of the Jews in the world, in Eretz Israel, were betrayed. I mean, over and over again at all levels of the government in Israel in 2005. You know, whether it was by Ariel Sharon or Benjamin Netanyahu or the Yesha Council, there were many opportunities to stop the disengagement from Gush Katif. Bibi had the power to stop it, and he chose not to. And even in if you remember, in Kfar Maimon, 50,000 people came to Kfar Maimon, and they were all ready. I have good friends of mine who were in that group. They were ready to march into Gaza. If 50,000 people had marched into Gaza, it would be a very different world today. But unfortunately, our leaders there betrayed us as well, and we ended up marching around the Kfar Maimon. But anyway, the subject here is going back to Gaza, right? And rebuilding it. And over the years, I mean, we even you know, when the Oslo Accords were signed, when in 2005 when we left, they said, well, you know, if one missile comes over the border, we'll go right back in, we'll take it back. And we knew it was a lie, right? We knew it was a lie. But now we know that we're going to have to go back. And I was asked to talk about a couple of things in that matter. The Zehut's plan to go back, or for all of Eretz Israel, is to establish sovereignty over all of the land of Israel, over Yehuda and Shomron, over Gaza. But specifically, since we don't currently control Gaza, how are we going to do that? Well, over the last 15 years, we've had to go back into Gaza several times. The military plans to reconquer Gaza are there. They exist. We know they exist. Moshe Feiglin and many other leaders of Zehut, and at the time Manhigut Yehudit, we've gone over those plans numerous times, and he knows many people in the military who he's gone through those plans with. We know that the IDF can take over Gaza in a very short time. If anyone remembers or has read about it, in 1967, when we in the 6-Day War, Gaza was taken over in hours, literally hours. There was some significant fighting, but literally hours, and Gaza had fallen. Now today, of course, since we've allowed Hamas and the PLO to build up their traps and their tunnels and all kinds of other things, it's not going to be as simple. But the plans do exist. We know how to do it. And as we've all seen, Israel knows where all the tunnels are, right? We know where their arms are. We know, where they hide things, where they hide their missiles, where their missile factories are. We have all that intelligence, right? It's not far-fetched that we can go in and take land. However, the only reason, and I would stress this over and over again, the only reason to put boots on the ground, to put our children in harm's way, is if we're going to go into Gaza and we're going to take it back and we're going to keep it. Unfortunately, over the years, we have sent our soldiers, we sent our kids into Gaza for no other reason than for a little bit of quiet. And we've sacrificed their lives for a little bit of quiet. And I hope that no government of Israel will ever do that again. I want to say one other thing. And this came up the other day. The land of Gaza, the Gaza Strip, and most people don't realize, but also Ashkelon and Ashdod, right? There are people who argue, oh, well, that land was never really Israel, right? That land belonged to the Plishtim. right? And true, it's true. The land did belong to the Plishtim until Israel took it from them. But I always find it fascinating that the Arabs, who like to call themselves Palestinians, they like to claim that they're descendants of the Plishtim. They don't seem to realize that the meaning of the word Plishtim is invader. The Hebrew word Plishtim means invader. They were invading the territory to begin with, and we flushed them out. With that, I will end. If there are any questions, I'm perfectly happy to take them.
So, yes. Hi, Jeff. So, Jeff, how about if you pull out the Zehut peace plan and, scroll down and read, where I'm really putting him on the spot. You see, I'm the biggest fan of the plan because it just makes so much sense and it's fair. How about reading the first few points where, again, it goes into, exactly, so what do you do?
Sure.
Yeah. How about being a little more specific? Because again, the other theme today is Gaza, why not? Well, why not? Let's go for it.
Right.
Let's get into details.
For those people who don't know, I mean, the Zehut platform is tremendous, right? The Moshe and many other people put together a book of the platform that sold out, a few years ago. And the platform itself, I think, is 350 some odd pages. And if you look on Zehut, the Zehut International website, you can see, a synopsis and an abbreviated peace plan that's there. And the peace plan itself is not even the first part of the plan, right? It's part 7, right? There's so much that has to go on before this could even happen. But let me give you some highlights here. Hang on one second. So here, the program's basic assumptions. The land of Israel belongs to the people of Israel alone by divine choice. Right? International law recognizes that the territory of Judea and Samaria is designated for a Jewish state, as Justice Levy's report showed. Right? The demographic trend is in Israel is in favor of the Jews. Right? It says in the estimates by 2035, a majority of 80% of the Jews are expected to live in Israel from the Mediterranean to Jordan. And most Arab residents of Judea and Samaria and Gaza, for that matter, want to emigrate. They don't want to be there. They know they can have better lives elsewhere. So the stages of the program, of the plan, right? Stage 1 is that the Oslo Accords will be canceled. And the legal situation will be restored to pre-Oslo status. The second stage is that the terrorists, so Hamas, PLO, name your terrorist organization, will be offered a peaceful withdrawal, just like they were, similar to what they were in the withdrawal in Lebanon in 1982. The PLO was offered to leave without bloodshed. Now, obviously, if they choose not to leave, then we'll do what we have to do to get rid of them. So which leads to the third stage, which is the IDF will take over the territory as it was able to do in Operation Defensive Shield, and the state of Israel will apply its full sovereignty over all parts of the country. No element except the IDF, the Israel police, and authorized civilians will carry weapons in Israel. Right? Stage 4 is non-Jewish residents of Judea and Samaria will be offered 3 options, right? This is after we've gotten rid of the terrorists. So if they want assistance for immigration, to go elsewhere or emigration to go elsewhere. The state will enable interested residents to sell their property and will help them emigrate to the destination of their choice. For those who wish to stay in Israel and they just want to live in Israel, they're not interested in being a citizen of the country, but they realize that they have a good life here. So those who wish to remain and declare their allegiance openly will receive their status of permanent residents in the Jewish state. All their human and property rights shall be preserved in the same manner as permanent residents of other Western countries, as the United States, the inhabitants of Samoa, the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. And the last stage is those who want citizenship, right? There may be Arabs or non-Jewish residents who actually want to be citizens of Israel. They support Israel that much that they want to pour their hearts out, right? They want to serve in the army. So those who wish to be loyal citizens and serve in the army, such as the Druze do today, will be able to receive full citizenship after a long and thorough examination track, and that can take up to 10 years. So those are the stages of the plan, right? It's relatively simple and straightforward. Obviously, there are details that will need to be gone into, but it's a program that's that is actually something that we could enact, unlike the two-state solution, which has failed for the last 27 years. Tamar, you're muted.
Okay.
There you go.
And, Jeff made a really good point just now, and that is that the plan is simple and straightforward. And when you look at the beginning with the Camp David Accords, through the Oslo Accords, through Madrid, through the disengagement plan, through the deal of the century, and everything in between, hundreds of thousands upon thousands of words, hundreds of pages, complicated clauses galore, a lot of things that we don't know is in there, and straightforward. That's the way to go. Like in halacha, things are clear and concise, and that works. That's why
I'll tell you
we're here today.
I'll tell you one more quick story.
Mm-hmm.
Moshe Feiglin, when he was in the Knesset, was actually sitting in the Knesset dining room having lunch, and he was approached by an Arab member of Knesset, and I can't mention his name. He came over to him and he sat down with him and he talked with him. And at one point he asked Moshe, he said, "What are the borders of the state of Israel? What are the borders of the land of Israel?" And that's a loaded question, right? Especially coming from an Arab minister of Knesset, right, in the Knesset. And Moshe thought about it for a second and he said, "Look, I have to tell him the truth." And Moshe said, the borders of the land of Israel is from the Euphrates to the Nile, from the Nile to the Euphrates. And, he didn't know what to expect from this guy, an Arab member of Knesset. And the Arab member of Knesset looks at him and he says, "You know what? You I can work with, but the Zionists I cannot work with." So when we stand up and we tell them the truth, we tell them what Hashem wants us to tell them, they understand and they'll work with us.
That's right. Amen. Well, Jeff, thank you very much for joining us again. And
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. So I want to thank all of our speakers who came on today. And like I said before, we have a YouTube channel. I have no idea how these technological things work, which is why Miriam Leah Gamliel is here today and all the time working the dials, as we say. But we will send out that information. And again, I want to thank her. I want to thank Anita Tucker for introducing me to many of our speakers today. And Peggy Lobel and Henry Storch and our generous sponsors. And I really hope that the next time we do this, we're all together in person, because first of all, it'll be a lot easier and a lot less money. So, and in Yerushalayim and Yirtzeh Hashem. And I want to say that we have a minhag, a custom beginning on Tu B'Av, which is Shabbos, is to wish everybody Shana Tova, Kesiva v'Chasima Tova through Tishrei, and may it be so. I want to thank everyone for joining, and we should all have a good Shabbos and be reunited in Gaza, in all of Judea and Samaria, all of Yerushalayim, the Golan, and every single inch of Eretz Yisrael. Thank you so much. Good night.